To round up today's episode, let's take some readings.
Hello, I'm Bimbo Oloyede. I've been a broadcaster for 4 decades, and I've spent the last 20 years training in presentation and coaching people in public speaking. Over the years, I've listened to many people speak English in different ways, and I felt that after 4 decades, it was time for me to put something together that would help people to improve on their ability to pronounce English words properly. So I wrote a book called Strictly Speaking, Pronunciation Made Easy. And I'm going to read an excerpt from the introduction. I was born into a home which was a combination of Sierra Leone and Nigeria, so I spoke English from an early age. However, it was not until I left St. Saviour's School, Ikoyi, Lagos, at the age of 8 and became a pupil at Wearfield School, Taunton, Somerset, now Taunton School in England's West Country, that I began to understand that English, though universal, is spoken in very many ways. You could well ask, what's so fascinating about English? If we don't speak it properly, so what? You might as well equally ask why we need education. If you know the answer to the latter question, we don't need to dwell on the former. This publication, therefore, becomes a critical step in ensuring that people have the basic foundation on which to build their mastery of a language that's spoken globally by about 3 billion people, all of whom are exposed to different sounds, accents, and languages, but who share a common link. They all speak English. In the beginning. I think we should go back to the beginning and trace the origin of the English language. How did it come into being in the first place? The English language is spoken today across the globe as either a first, second, official, foreign, or alternative language. However, what is known today as the English language wasn't the language spoken in England in the 5th and 6th centuries, before the Norman conquest. The language spoken then was known as Old English. During the 5th millennium, the first people known to have inhabited the land that was later to become England were known as Celts. Their language was basically from the Indo-European language family, which included several hundred languages and dialects. The Celts were often invaded by the Romans, so they sought help from some Germanic tribes: Angles, Saxons, Frisians, and Jutes. These Germanic tribes took over England from the weak Celts, and although they introduced the Germanic language, they also borrowed from other languages, and the Germanic language became known as Anglo-Saxon. By the 7th century, today's England was known as Angli or Anglia, and the first form of English known as Old English or Anglo-Saxon came into being. It was closely related to Old Norse, the ancient North Germanic language, which includes what we now know as the Scandinavian languages. The term for the country was Engel, while the name of the language was referred to as English. Please note that the SE at the end of the word was represented by the sound sh. The word England, land of the Angles, did not appear until the beginning of the 10th century. Between the 12th and 16th centuries, Old English developed into Middle English, and from the 16th to the mid-17th century, Early Modern English, or Renaissance English, spoken by Shakespeare, was the order of the day. Today's English, or Modern English, has therefore been spoken since the mid-17th century. It is estimated that over 120 languages from all over the world have contributed to present-day English vocabulary, and these languages include Latin, French, Greek, Swedish, Danish, Finnish, Dutch, Indian, Chinese, Japanese, and Arabic. No wonder the 19th century American poet and philosopher Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "Language is a city to the building of which every human being brought a stone." No wonder the 19th century American poet and philosopher Ralph Waldo Emerson said, and I quote, "Language is a city to the building of which every human being brought a stone." End of quote. How then do we ensure that everyone has a similar understanding of the sounds of English so that meaningful interaction actually does take place? Fortunately, there is an internationally acknowledged phonetic alphabet known as the International Phonetic Alphabet, IPA, which is a set of symbols that represents units of sound called phonetic symbols. It was developed by the International Phonetic Association and, if properly utilized, enables you to pronounce words correctly and speak a level of English that not only builds your confidence as a speaker, but also places you above the rest. All it takes is practice. So, now, if you're ready, enjoy, have fun. You deserve it.
In the last two episodes, we announced you could win a copy of this book written by Fred Muddy. We mentioned what you could do to win a copy, and some people gave it a shot. I'm glad to say that we have picked 30 winners who will each be getting a copy of this entertaining collection of short stories. Using Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram handles, here are the winners. Before we go, we would like you to join us in selecting our top 20 Nigerian books of 2018. This is a list we compile every year, and we are happy to say that there is a growing number of people who look out for our top 20 books of the year. Of the 20, 10 must be fiction titles that could include poetry, and the other 10 will then be non-fiction titles. All you need to do to join us in selecting our books of the year is to send us the titles of the books you believe should absolutely be on our list. We usually look out for books with superb and relevant content, captivating writing, great production quality, good reviews, effective distribution and publishing, and of course, wide appeal. Our in-house team selects titles while we also use recommendations from publishers, bookshop managers, literary critics, reviewers, and of course, you, our viewers. The books we select must be books written by Nigerians residing anywhere in the world and published between November of the previous year and December of the current year. We look forward to getting your suggestions, which you can send to us through any of our social media platforms displayed on your screen. I am Olakunle Kasumo. Remember, one great book can change your life. Bye-bye.